Top magician verifies materialization of a deceased magician. And again now, pay attention. Top magician verifies physical materialization of a deceased magician. William Goldston, pictured, founder of the London Magicians Club, and a team of magicians sat with the great materialization medium Helen Duncan, and were astounded when their dead friend, magician the Great Lafayette, materialized. Goldston wrote a report to the Psychic News confirming that no magician could possibly duplicate the phenomena that he and his fellow magicians had witnessed. These are just a few of the magicians past and present who have accepted psychic phenomena and the afterlife. Other magicians who endorsed psychic phenomena. By George P. Henson. Conjurers have long played a role in psychical research. Many people are under the impression that magicians are total skeptics when it comes to psychic phenomena. It comes as a surprise to many, including some magicians, to learn that this is by no means the case. A number of the most prominent magicians in history have endorsed the reality of psychic phenomena. A surprising roster of modern-day conjurers also have positive views. Some magicians' positive statements regarding psychic phenomena might be looked upon with some skepticism. In the mentalist literature, performers are frequently urged to claim genuine abilities even if they don't believe in them. In other instances, magicians might make positive statements for publicity purposes. Such practices have some to doubt any positive opinions magicians claim on the matter. There is considerable controversy regarding statements made by mentalists like Joseph Dunninger, David Hood, and Christian. However, I have not yet come across anything that would lead me to doubt the statements and views cited in this article. They seem to truly reflect the honest opinions of those stating them. It is well known that J. Neville Maskelyne reaped much publicity for his attacks on mediums. In fact, Maskelyne and Cook began their rise to fame with performances of an anti-spiritualist demonstration. Maskelyne testified in court against several spiritualists. However, in an article in the Pall Mall Gazette, Maskelyne described witnessing table turning that he thought was genuine and said, "I myself, and a few friends, produced movements of the table. I believe, in my own mind, that it must have been some psychic corner force which neutralized the laws of gravitation." Page 5. He emphatically denied that spirits were involved, however. But how could he know? Thus he rejected a supernatural explanation, but accepted the natural physical reality of the phenomena. Harry Keller has also written of his experiences with Eglinton. Keller observed him levitate. Keller too rejected a spiritualistic interpretation, but accepted the physical reality of the event. Keller's account indicated that the levitation occurred in darkness, thus the strength of his account must be evaluated accordingly. But Samuel Bellachini was the court conjurer for Emperor William I in Berlin. Bellachini investigated the controversial American medium Henry Slade. The sittings were not only held in darkness, but some were in full daylight. Bellachini was convinced that the results were not due to trickery. The famous historical medium, ESP and Palladino, readily admitted herself that she used trickery when she could. Skeptics have often thus mistakenly dismissed positive reports of her phenomena. But no less than Howard Thurston, pictured, believed in some of her results, and said so in the New York Times. Thurston was nevertheless well aware of her trickery. Given that someone of Thurston's stature endorsed the phenomena, perhaps pseudoskeptics and investigators should reevaluate the policy of automatically dismissing all positive evidence when trickery is found in other instances. Thomas Worthington produced a short biography of Thurston, in which he described a premonition of Thurston himself. Worthington mentioned that Thurston had a deep interest in Eastern philosophy. Henry Ridgely Evans was a journalist and magic historian who wrote several books exposing fakery of mediums. He too believed in telepathy, and said so in his Hours with the Ghosts. David Abbott wrote Behind the Scenes with the Mediums, a classic expose. He was involved with the American Society for Psychical Research investigation of Mrs. Blake, a trumpet medium. Mrs. Blake gave Abbott details about deceased relatives which she had no way of knowing. Henry Hardin, E.A. Parsons, a magic inventor and music professor, was also involved, and also received strikingly accurate information. Father Carlos de Heredia was a Jesuit, and also an amateur magician. As a boy, he was able to study under Herman. In his book Spiritism and Common Sense he explained tricks of the mediums, and he too acknowledged that some psychical phenomena do exist. John Mulholland authored the book Beware Familiar Spirits. Mulholland was generally skeptical, but at the end of the book he included a chapter with accounts of paranormal occurrences from others. Among those was one by Fulton Oursler describing a premonition involving himself and Howard Thurston. In a biography by Oursler's son, it was noted that Fulton did have prophetic dreams all his life. Oursler was an amateur magician, and a well-known editor and writer. One of his best-known works was The Greatest Story Ever Told. Some of his magical writings appeared under the name Summary Freikel, including a book Spirit Mediums Exposed. Another writer who dabbled in magic was Lewis Carroll, Charles Lutwidge Dodgson. He had a strong interest in spiritualism and psychical research, and stated that not all the phenomena could be explained by trickery. He was one of the charter members of the Society for Psychical Research. Julian Proskauer served as president of the SAM, and also wrote 2 books attacking fake spiritualist mediums. One was titled The Dead Do Not Talk. In his other book, Spook Crooks, he noted that there have been some inexplicable phenomena during seances. Eric Dingwall was an honorary vice president of the Magic Circle when he died in 1986. See John Booth's column of August 1988. In the early part of this century, he investigated numerous mediums and published many journal articles on his investigations. Dingwall came to rather favorable conclusions regarding Saint Joseph of Cupertino, a saint who levitated, and for Daniel Dunglass Home, an extraordinary medium. He also has written an extended discussion of Eusapia Palladino. These are recounted and evaluated in his most appropriately titled books, Very Peculiar People and Some Human Oddities. Later in life he wrote some scathing attacks on psychical researchers, but he did not explain some of his own extraordinary observations. Will Goldston, pictured, wrote more than 50 books, e.g., Exclusive Magical Secrets, and founded the Magicians' Club of London. It is not as well known that Goldston was heavily involved in encounters with the psychic. In his Secrets of Famous Illusionists he describes a number of table levitations he witnessed, and also mentioned that he himself practiced automatic writing. He took part in investigations of the medium Rudy Schneider. The eminent psychic researcher, Walter Franklin Prince, was an amateur conjurer, and published a book titled Noted Witnesses for Psychic Occurrences. The title well describes the contents. Prince reprinted letters and other accounts from such persons as Mark Twain, Luther Burbank, and Charles Dickens, an amateur conjurer. The magicians included Henry Ridgely Evans, John Neville Maskelyne, and Fulton Oursler. The name of Uri Geller often sparks a dispute among magicians. In 1975 Abduction and Arthur Zorka investigated Geller. Their report described events which they could not explain. Several skeptics have sought to discredit the account by writing of second- and third-hand rumors of conversations with Abduction, supposedly indicating discrepancies. I personally have spoken with Dixon, and he affirmed the essential accuracy of the report, and said that he did not know how Geller accomplished the feats observed during their investigation. A scientific poll of magicians. In 1981 Polly Birdsell, owner of California Magic and Novelty Co. in Pleasant Hill, on the eastern side of the San Francisco Bay Area, completed a master's thesis on the opinions of magicians and the relation of the occult to modern magic. She explored how magicians view their art in relation to the supernatural. For part of her project, she polled a group of magicians, and found that 82% of them expressed a positive view regarding the existence of ESP. Her thesis has recently been published in book form. Summary and concluding remarks. It should not be surprising that so many magicians have and do accept the genuineness of psychic occurrences. After all, we magicians are mostly like normal people. Recent polls have shown that over half of the general population believe in ESP. Clearly there is a disagreement, not only among magicians, but among scientists and government bodies as well. Physics Nobel laureate Brian Josephson is very positively inclined toward the existence of ESP, whereas physicist, pseudoskeptic Stephen Hawking is critical. The U.S. Army Research Institute commissioned a study which came to rather negative conclusions about parapsychology, yet a project of the U.S. Congressional Office of Technology Assessment came to much more positive decisions. For well over 100 years, scientists have been debating the existence of paranormal phenomena such as extrasensory perception, ESP, and psychokinesis, PK. A recent example appears in the December 1987 issue of Behavioral and Brain Sciences, a psychology journal devoted to dialogue and debate. Over 100 pages were given to parapsychology with more than 50 commentators. Several of the participants in this scientific debate were magicians. Most skeptics are unfamiliar with the best scientific evidence for psychic phenomena such as that in the Journal of Parapsychology. Most believers are unaware of the strongest argument against the reality. It will likely be a while before the scientific controversy is resolved, but in any event, magicians will undoubtedly play a role. So there you have it, pseudoskeptics. 82% of magicians happily accept psychic phenomena, which puts James Randi in a very inferior, minority position. Simply another publicity seeker. It can't make him an authority, but you, dear skeptics, mistakenly make him your personal authority, your guiding light. So why haven't the 82% of magicians queued up to take the million from Randi? Because they all know he is just another fraud. Another one of the many, like Houdini etc., listed in this article. Why can't you see this, dear skeptic? Not ever. Sooner or later we must face your mental feebleness as the explanation. That's the most common reason. Online. Everyone else gets the joke, but you, dear skeptic. A heartfelt anthem for James Randi and his thousands of online emulators. I started a joke which started the whole world crying, but I didn't see that the joke was on me, oh no. Of course some skeptics are very bright and still personally practice this aggressive Randi emulation daily on the net. Their online operation is disguised heterophobia, often recognized in desperately insecure bullies, according to experts. The reason most magicians support ESP etc. is that they have experiences themselves, and the Randi minority is just using the same old fraudulent accusation of fraud toward mediums to generate publicity like the many magicians before. But you, dear skeptics, mistakenly provide the adulation, lapping it up as true fact. But oh no, the joke was on me, oh no. Meanwhile, ho-hum, as usual, I just co-experienced telephone telepathy with my wife when a third party called. We were in different rooms. We both had mental pictures of the same caller before the phone even rang. And we were right again. For the 10,000th time. Millions of people do this daily, likely the majority, and it's proven in large studies, in call centers. And people around the planet write to me, relating half their dream about my daily activities, and I reply, confirming I was actually doing that, with some elaboration, like motive, background, outcome, and the distant dreamer replies, yes, that was the other half of my dream. And we are both laughing out loud. What a wonderful world.